See that?
Yeah.
Test 1, 2. Can you hear me, Judd? Judd, Mr. Neufeld, you're muted.
And can you hear us? Hello,
Yes. Can you hear
anybody
me,
there?
Judd?
Yes, can hear you.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We've already done a welcome and a call to order and a roll call. I'd like a motion, please, to approve the minutes of April 7, 2021 meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
By Mr. Wayne McLean, seconded by Mr. Hugh Law.
Roll call for the record.
Yes,
Roll call for the record. Well, we'll start with you.
Okay, Wayne McLean present.
John Browning, present.
Melissa Miller, present.
Judd Newfeld, present.
Hugh Law present. Ken Johnson present.
Dana online.
Dana is
That's
traveling.
okay. Now, we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We just had a few quick comments, and it sure is nice to see the room full of people interested in serving our city and our community for our airport. 60 years ago today was the first human space flight on May 5th, 1961, piloted by Alan Shepard. And he went 5,134 miles an hour for 15 minutes and 22 seconds for a distance of 101 miles straight up and a downrange distance of 263 miles. So I thought that was very fascinating. Welcome, Mr. Holmes.
Thanks, Ted.
Very fascinating thing in our history. Quote that came along with that was the fourth cornerstone. Aviation is proof that given the will, we have the capacity to achieve the impossible. We celebrate aviation in our airport. And I have another quote that goes along with that from Eddie Redenbacher. It says, the four cornerstones of character which the structure of this nation was built are initiative, imagination, individuality, and independence. And Eddie Redenbacher was a Medal of Honor recipient, a fighter ace from World War I with 26 aerial victories, and a very successful man that penned those quotes are all centered around his career in aviation. So as we have this meeting today, maybe we can remember those words and encourage us. So thank you all very much again for being here. And is there any public comments at this time? That's next on our agenda.
There's no public comments on the YouTube chat.
There's none. Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll turn it over to, we'll go to number 4, which is regular public business. And 4A is determination of capital changes to capital improvement program recommended to the city commission. So we had a discussion on this earlier, and I think, Andrew, this is just where you kick in a little presentation for us, please, sir.
Yes,
I want to thank you, Andrew. Again, I don't speak for me, but probably for the advisory board, for all your help. In this last meeting, I was confused on the length of runways, and my apologies to everybody. And on the total money, and so we need your help, sir, in keeping us on track and straight. Thank you for being here and all that you do for us, sir.
had a very good follow-up meeting with John and Jonathan, the city manager, since the last meeting. And I think that today we'll just get some clarity both on the runway extension and the changes to the CIP. So very specific, and we get the input here today and decide how you all want to proceed. Thanks for having us. Matt Singletary and Justin Vollenweider behind me, our airport engineer and airport architect. So we're spending some time with me here today too. Did everybody receive the email from Sunny this morning that had a one-page attachment? If not, I brought a whole stack. Everybody can grab one. I'm gonna use this as.
Sure it did, but I didn't see it.
That's fine. One stack.
That's See it? Oh, there it is.
Picture Ken.
So there's 5 different changes. Some are interrelated to the CIP that I think we're here to discuss today and agree to move forward or change them, whatever the case may be. They are how to either keep or move the money from the wildlife hazard assessment and the wildlife hazard trench fencing. The second is the runway 927 extension, to move it or keep it where it is. to agree on the insertion of the new runway 9 run-up apron on taxiway Alpha, to agree on adding a new hangar construction project in 2027, and adding a new project for hangar rehabilitation of doors and roofs. So those are the 5 things. I just thought we'll start off by talking about the runway extension itself. I'm not sure if Kyle or Donna are on the line. Do we know? Are Kyle or Donna there? From DOT?
Andrew, I don't know if you can see me. It's Kyle. I'm here.
Okay, so Kyle's there. So I want to just give everybody a little bit of background, why even there was any discussion about moving the environmental assessment or the implementation of the runway extension, how that even came into play in the CIP discussion. Environmental assessment was supposed to be left in the year 2026. It's got $300,000 of FDOT funding sitting on it, but there was also an implementation phase of the runway in 2026 that has $600,000 of money assigned to it. Since we're already in 2021 and we do not have a design aircraft yet and the need for a runway extension today, and the year 2026 is within our 5-year period, which is just about how long it takes to do a runway extension to get everything set. The discussion occurred because the city added a new project to rehabilitate hangars for doors and roofs. And Kyle brought up a very good recommendation in the meeting and said, if we leave the runway extension environmental assessment in 2026, you have another $600,000 of funding in that year. We could take that $600,000 in that year and put it towards hangar rehabilitation, because there is no other funding source in the CIP yet to do hangar doors and hangar roof rehab. So that's how simple it just came about, that we don't have an aircraft yet today, regardless of the runway lengths we're going to talk about. But it was a very obvious source in our meeting in a way to get hangar roofs and door rehab into the CIP funded, because it's coming. That's not stopping here. It's going to be on us for the next 10 years to decide how to finance door and roof rehab for hangars, because they're 30 and 40 years old. I don't mean the new ones down here, talking about the old ones. That's how old they are. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you may.
Say that one more time. I want to make sure I understand what you said about taking the money from the runway, and it can go directly to the doors and rehab.
it can. That $600,000 in 2026, which again, it sounds like it's far away, but it's actually available in July of 25. And we're already 1 month from now, we're going to be in 22.
Okay.
Funding in 22.
And what's the 600,000 allocated to right now?
It's for the construction phase of the runway extension now.
600,000, which is a drop in the bucket, what it's gonna cost.
Correct. That was a small matching share of an FAA project. It was simply a dollar figure. It is not anywhere near enough for the project.
Right.
And we'll talk about the magnitudes of the dollar value in here in a minute.
I hate to belabor this, but one other question on that. So that 600,000, then that would make a pretty huge impact on the repair of the hangars.
Yes.
I mean, like on the group over there, hard for you to say, I'm sure, but I mean, the doors and this includes doors and the rehab of the doors.
Wayne, I would look at it as doing 6 $100,000 projects.
Okay.
So that's whether that's a brand new door on the big hangars or a brand new roof on the big hangars, or multiple doors and multiple roofs on the small hanger.
I got you.
We have not gone in and assigned any dollar value to what we think the overall need is, but that need is coming.
I got you.
I think we all know that that's coming.
Mr.
Yeah,
Brown.
I'm probably confused, but I thought that we were trying to take the money from the run-up ramp out here and use that to rehab it. Because we had thought we would take the money from the run-up. How much is that?
I think 300. And
That's the FAA money that we said it can't be used for hangars. That's
Okay, but I was thinking that we were using that, and I thought we'd take that 300 plus the 600, that's $1 million. Right at $1 million, which if you, anyway, it's just a matter, we want the hangars done, but So you're,
I just wanted to let everybody know why the discussion even came up to move the runway extension out of 2026. Why did we even propose the?
You mean moving back beyond
Right.
2026?
Right.
It was in the 5-year plan, and the discussion came up of moving it out.
Correct.
are we
Beyond the
gonna
5 years
move
out.
it? Do I understand then is it still gonna be in the 5-year work program?
It's gonna be outside the year 2027, John, if you agree. I mean, it's up to you all. Right now, the project in 2027, which is our last year inside the work program, is another hangar project. The runway extension will either go in 28 or 29.
Okay, my thing, and I think maybe I'm confused, but I have encouraged keeping the extension of the runway in the 5-year work program, whatever it costs, because that is the only thing DOT's can look at. You move it out, I mean, we're being recorded, so I want to be careful. Anything that's outside the 5-year work program could be 10 years, or it keeps moving. If it's inside the 5-year work program and they accept inside the 5-year work program, there's a very good chance that we're going to get the money. That's the way it works. And they move the 5-year work program up every year and put another one. So if we manage to get in our 5-year work program and their 5-year work program, we'll probably get it. If you move it outside of the 5-year work program, trust me, folks, all the king's horses and all the king's men aren't going to get it built.
So here's the deal.
So it doesn't
You have an insight that none of us have.
matter.
And I'm not in any way patronizing you, John. You know I wouldn't do that for you. But you do. But the whole conversation that Andrew alluded to earlier involving me and Jonathan and I think Judd was, unless there is some let's just say unconventional force brought to play, the chances of us getting the runway extension funded at a cost of between, if you look at your handout sheet, a cost of between $8 million and $15 million in the next 5 years is 0 to none. And that's what basically, without going into it, a 40-minute conversation, which is what we had earlier, that's what we're told. We don't have the numbers for landings and takeoffs of jets, which I think were 300 a year, to qualify for extension money under conventional guidelines. We don't have those numbers. And given the amount of money we're talking about, basically what our conversation with Andrew was, because I wanted to know themes. I wanted to know some specifics. This isn't the ballgame I've been playing in, and basically the bottom line, again, without going into 40 minutes, was unless there's something unconventional, an unconventional force that is going to be brought to bear, you guys can keep that in. You can not use that 600 grand for the hangars, but your chances of getting money to extend the runway because of the things that are involved in the extension, the wetland mitigation, moving the power lines, et cetera, chances are slim to none. So if you're telling us that those chances are not slim to none, it would change my idea about the thinking of it. But
I would say to you, Don, not to.
no, go ahead. No, you're good.
I'm saying to you that I would like to give it 30 days. Don't take it out. And I have proposed some people meeting, some people in Tallahassee, and let's see, because really it's going to be their call. If the head of the airports and in the state says no, then we're on. We know what to do. But if he says maybe, then I think we should reconsider.
Okay.
I don't think we can make a decision on something that we're sitting around the table saying it ain't going to be this. We just got 10. Well, we're going to end up with 3 of them. We've got a $12 billion budget. We just got $3 billion more added by the federal government. There's a lot of shuffling, as you know, right now of the money.
Okay.
I would say, I'm not saying you're not right. I'm saying let's put a 30 days, 60 days, something time for us to talk to the powers to be. I want to go to the head of it, the whole state, and get you, Wayne, or whoever's got the time. We'll either go up there or have, and let's give a pitch for what we want to do.
Okay.
And I think you'll know pretty quick, they're going, nah, boom, we know the answer. But if they say yes, that's what we want. To me, I'm not worried about the 600, I'm worried about the 8 million. And
Just
I
speaking
watch,
personally and not speaking for the board or the commission or anybody else is, you know, the most significant thing that we could get done at the airport, in my mind, for the future, would be the runway extension. Not that we've got an airplane right now that we're looking that needs extra space, but you know, the future's, it is what it is. It would give us options. It would give us some flexibility. It would give us something to market. And if it could get done, I'm all for it. But if it's going to be beating our head up against the wall and letting other opportunities pass while we're beating our head against the wall, then that was my only thinking.
yeah, and not to belabor it, there's something has happened, and I don't want to, on last Thursday, it makes the possibility better,
Cool.
okay? And I'm not going to tell you. how to
I
make it.
think there's a possible simple win-win situation that accommodates everything we're trying to do. And that is, instead of moving the runway extension out to 28 and 29, that we can simply move, we have the environmental assessment in 26, which we agree we're going to leave. We could simply take the runway extension, the start of the implementation, and move it from 26 to 27, which still keeps it in the work program for DOT. Okay. And we can still keep our discussion, and you can still approve the CIP and move it forward by achieving what John wants, keeping it in the work program by the DOT, and just move it out 1 year.
As long as we keep it in.
And then we'll still be listed.
And
I don't know what, I
How does
want you,
27 within 5 years? I'm missing that.
why don't,
Well,
I just-
22 is going to start in July.
look, I don't want to say everything that I know. I'm just saying to you, if you would, considering the fact that I now again have the opportunity to get access, that we use that for a month or
I'm all
so.
for it.
What in the world difference does it make? And
I'm
if
all
it doesn't
for it.
work, we got,
As
I'm
Don said,
sorry,
you've
I'm
got-
not trying to be,
You've got some insight that we don't have, you know,
I
we're
don't think it's
glad, we're glad.
appropriate that I
No, you don't have to. It's enough, from my perspective, it's enough that you said what you said.
Okay, Melissa, are you happy with all that?
I make a motion to support John's recommendation.
Wow, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
second.
All right, now further discussion.
Is the recommendation to move to 27?
Is the recommendation?
Whatever he recommends.
I recommend that we do not act on that for 30 days. We just don't act on it.
But can we still approve the CIP because there's a deadline, correct?
That's correct. That's something that Kyle
I don't know.
and they do need.
I'm just talking about the extension. I don't know about what else.
But if we approve the CIP, it doesn't really
But
hurt
that moves it,
anything
doesn't it?
else that we're talking about, correct?
Well,
If you approve it, you've moved it.
The CIP is due in July.
CIP was actually due, the updates were due in March.
Okay, but it's for the fiscal year beginning in July.
It's the entire program out to 2027. It's not for next
So it's
year.
it's included.
Correct. It's the programming to 27.
But if we move this to 27, it'll still be in the CIP.
Correct.
And then we can approve that way and it won't hurt anything.
And it'll still be listed. And again, what John is referring to is the DOT's work program, and it's still in the window of consideration. It will still be listed on the 5-year CIP.
Okay, I'm asking you, without telling us whatever it is that you know,
You already know.
is moving it to 27 going to be a problem?
I just merely said, why can't we wait a month? Let's try to contact some people that make those would and ask them. Would it be a problem to move it?
If we don't give DOT an answer, we're already overdue.
We can ask Kyle.
Kyle, can you hear us, sir?
I am having a bit of audio, so if y'all can just repeat the question to make sure I completely hear it.
So can we have a 30-day delay on approving the CIP and still not hurt us or you?
I mean, I guess if it's needed, we'll certainly do our best to work with you. I'll say at this point, there's 16 airports in District 2. 15 of them have finished their CIP process. 4 to 6 weeks ago. They're done. So Palatka's kind of the only one hanging out there. We would like to obviously wrap it up soon. We are due to have all this submitted internally within our system no later than the middle of June, which does allow you the 30 days. I would hope, and I don't know if this is something y'all could consider, can you approve the majority of the CIP with the exception of that project? So we can at least start making some progress towards finalizing the SIP, although it may not be completely complete.
Well, I think we could. So how would we word that?
Kyle, it's Andrew.
Hey, Andrew.
So we would leave the runway extension in 2026, and we will have the hangar rehab project in 2026, at least now, and it would be unfunded, and the funds would remain on the runway extension for now, and then the hangar project would be unfunded. That's what I think would happen.
All right, Andrew, I guess what I would ask you to do in that circumstance, so that when that decision point is reached in 30 days or whatever, if you would go ahead and enter the hangar rehab project into JSIP, so it's all built and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that may have already happened. I haven't looked at JSIP.
Yeah, I think that new project is already in, Kyle.
Okay, so then when y'all give us a decision on that single project 30 days from now, it's either A, we leave it like it is, or B, we go pull those funds off and pull them down to the unfunded hangar rehab project.
Everybody understand what he said?
I do.
So what he's saying is, we leave the way it is. Both the runway extension and the hangar rehab are both in 2026. And when we have a decision to either keep it or move it, we notify him at that time, but both projects will be sitting there competing for funds.
And Andrew, if I can add to just regarding the runway extension process, and you're probably more familiar with this than I am. Runway extensions are rare. I've never dealt with one. I don't know of a recent one in this area. But DOT, while we are a key stakeholder in the approval process, we're definitely not the lead agency. The lead agency is going to be FAA. And that's going to be kind of the $1 million question, is convincing them that this is a true necessary need. I don't have any insight in that process, Andrew. You may have more, but in general, as I understand it with runway extensions, DOT, you have to have FAA approval regardless. And DOT will generally fall in line with FAA's recommendation.
Okay, thank you so much, Kyle. So Wayne, are you good with this and understand
it? Because I think it hits what we want to do, both of us.
Okay. How about you, Ken?
I'm in agreement with it. You know, all we're doing is waiting 30 days, basically. And if we can leave out this little bit, you know, and go ahead and meet his recommendations and getting his work done, you know, I'm good with it.
You're basically approving the CIP now.
That we're approving the CIP.
Yeah, subject to
One
possible
change.
modification in 30 days.
Normally you can slide one out. They're not going to do. I think that we are in a position, there's a new transportation bill, which they know they're coming through with lots of money. And we have some people here who are friendly with the new administration. And I think that you got two parts to this puzzle. You got the federal part, and you got the state part. And we have our people here should work on the federal part, and we have people here that work on the state, and that's how you do it. It's got to be, the money's going to come from the feds, but they're fixing to put a lot. It's just a matter of whether we can get ours in that slot, and that's the idea. So I'd say yes.
Do you have any questions? Okay.
No, I know.
So I guess the city has no other input. Mr. Mayor, you're good? Okay, well, we have a motion and a second on the floor, so all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. And
Excuse me, Mr. Neufeld, this is Sunny. Can you advise who made the second?
that was Hugh Rawls, wasn't it? No, Ken Johnson made the second. Sorry.
Thank you, Ken.
And Melissa made the motion. And we all voted yes. Wow, well, that's quite detailed, and that's good. Thank you, Andrew.
Well, I just want to just give I don't think this is going to take us down in any rabbit hole, but I just want to remind you all that back in your airport layout plan, you have multiple runway extensions shown on runway 9 going to the west. So we do not have to go through the variables on my sheet unless somebody wants to discuss anything on there. But what I will tell you is, you're at 6,000 feet right now. As a comparison, St. Augustine is 8,001 and Gainesville is at 7,500. You can extend to their lengths and still fit it without impacting the power lines in 309.
Oh, you
It's
can.
only until you get to,
Oh,
it's
that's,
only until
I
you,
didn't know that
that's
either.
the one
That's right.
thing we talked about.
that's right. That's why it's in orange.
I thought we talked about the fact that if we were gonna do it during our phone conference, I thought we talked about the fact that if you're gonna do it, you might as well go all the way out.
Well, you could.
No,
I'm
but
just
you want
telling
to
you.
go as long as you can do the length, same length that they've got almost, without doing the power lines, for goodness sake. That's what we wanna
Right.
do.
You can go to
So when we
8,000 feet.
ask for it, we don't want to ask for 8,500 feet. What is St. Augustine right now?
8,001. So it's 8,000 feet. You
Can
can,
we go,
1,001 foot.
can
the 1 foot matters, I can just tell you.
can we go 8,000?
We gotta go 2.
8,002.
8,002 for us.
Can we do 8,002 without moving the power?
Yes.
Oh, heck, man, that's.
Yes.
So that's 10 to 12 million.
That's okay. I mean, well, there's no, the kind of money we're dealing, if they can get the money and we can get the money, difference between 8 and 10 is nothing. It's
Can
a
you make that phone
decision.
call for us?
We'll make some calls.
Okay, now also, can we maybe piggyback on this? And maybe this is a mistake, but the jet centers. So, I mean, if we get this runway and we use up all of our favors or money, and we have, we know we have, I don't know how to politely say Mrs. Marijuana that flies in here in her jet. And then we have Mr. Morris that flies in here in his. And then we have Mr. Nations with his fleet. You know, the reality of needing some places to put these jets is another issue that, you know, at some time we need to make some recommendation on or some thoughts on and some decisions on what we would recommend as the locations on the airfield.
Sure. Can I comment on that?
Please.
I agree with you, except for one little venue. And I know I'm stuck on this, so I apologize. We've got to get some of these hangars fixed before we talk about building anything new. I mean, some of these hangars are in terrible shape.
Yes, sir. And I'm in favor of that.
Okay.
Also,
And I
don't.
no, you could.
I'd like to see if there isn't some people that want to build hangars here now.
Mhm.
And not let the city own for the hangars, let some people, they own the land and get them released, but let's get some.
Mhm.
And if we're gonna go that route, let's try to get people outside of us going to DOT and get the money. There's people out there, Bass probably bought 6,000 acres. He bought like 3 miles on the river, but a big hunting lodge and all that. I mean, he's going to be here now, folks.
Mhm.
And so he'd be a good start.
Mhm.
I'll see him and see if he doesn't want to do it. And let them pay for their own hangar, because if you get one jet hangar that they pay for, somebody else want to be here too. Maybe they'll, just a thought.
No, it's a good thought.
Sweet.
Yeah, very nice.
Private money.
And then we'll have to come up with a land lease, and we still need to pick the spots.
Well,
I mean,
think
we've
the
talked
land-
about it many
the
times.
land lease and that, Judd, should not be, we can give, that's more the cities and their, you know, I look at us in advisory as the concept, but when it gets down to the land lease and those guys, we shouldn't be doing that. We can, that's a legal matters and stuff that the city should be doing. And as a
Our job is to recommend.
our job is to recommend hangars and areas. But when it comes to leases and stuff, I just tell you, for volunteers, it kind of gets, I don't know, it's just my thought. What do you think, Wayne, about?
You're right, John.
Because in the end, we could spend all day, but it's going to be their decision.
Their decision ultimately on anything.
Yeah, well,
We're just an advisor.
great idea.
Any other discussion on that point?
We learned a lot of stuff today.
Yeah. Okay, well, then we can move on to 4B. Update on airport customer transportation. And I'd like to ask John Newell a question. John, are we still having people arrive needing a car and not able to get one? How many, how often?
It happens almost on a daily basis. Somebody, one person and comes in and.
So
I think they think that they'll get Uber if need be, but it's kind of hit and miss with Uber and taxis. And I do think it's something I'm trying to solve.
I know it's a huge deal. I mean, if you
It's a big
fly,
deal to pilots.
it's a big deal. So you land, you can't go nowhere. And if you can't even get a bite to eat, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a huge deal.
Everybody else.
To me, it's a deal on whether you go there, or you don't go there.
And you've already spent $500 of your money on your gasoline,
Yep.
and that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I mean, if
They
you
say,
land and you can't eat and you can't travel,
500, if they landed at the place that had those, they'd have spent 600. So a lot of people
That's
would
correct.
spend 500 and say, I'll find a way down there. I'll eat when I get home. Then they'll pay 600, which is what those guys charge. And 700, and you even landed to land now to land is $50, even to land. So let's compare that they offer things that we don't, they charge for things we don't, and consequently they can give things that we don't. I like the airplane. I mean, I like the car. When the Boys Ranch let us, that was good. And maybe we can find a way to do something with them, but it is a problem for liability.
well, yeah,
How
but so
can
we
you
need
get
a
around
rental then, or a zip car or something, but we have to provide a solution
Okay.
if we're
I
gonna
mean,
serve our
I'm
airport.
So outside of the assertion made by John, you left to, it's a daily problem. What's the empirical data that we have that shows that there's even a problem? Do we have, how many planes land here daily?
I don't have documented how many people.
And if you don't have a document, it doesn't exist in my mind. So at the point, you've had this conversation for months on months, almost at least a year to my knowledge. And you're trying to make a determination as to what a need is. And yet no one has taken the necessary steps to create any empirical data which says that in the month of June, for example, I had 5 people inquire about transportation. I gave, we assisted 3 of them with giving them transportation to get food or whatever the needs are. Not even a survey as it comes in to the pilots as they're here on a regular basis. So we're determining a need based upon a hypothesis with no true data as to where we are. How many of the pilots that land here locally are local pilots? How many of the folks that come in here are coming from different areas? How many of those folks are just doing touch and goes? We don't know. And so you're constantly making a determination as to what a need is, dealing with an issue of liability and cost and all these other things at the end of the day. And none of us in here have a clue as to what the real need is. If it's 12 people a year that's coming in here that need use of a vehicle, then we're creating a problem that's not a problem. You can't sit and tell me it's 365 people per year that's coming in here saying there's 365 pilots coming through here regularly saying it. He's saying it's almost an everyday problem. I could probably come sit at this airport and let's see how many people actually come in here daily and ask for a rental car. Because that old raggedy car that was here before, hell, they wasn't getting many miles on it. Nope. And so you go back and look at what the mileage was on that car from the time it was given to the airport from downtown. It wasn't a whole bunch of miles put on that car. And the big issue was the car was at the liquor store and there were no rules to the game. I think it costs us more to sit here every month and have a conversation about this rental car than it does for the people who actually want to use it. I mean, I've been out here multiple occasions, and the times I'm here, I don't see anybody saying, hell, I ain't coming back black because they don't have a car. And I think that we may be making a mountain out of a molehill until we've got data to show otherwise. Because as far as I'm concerned, if I don't see it in writing, if I don't have anything that I can judge the need by, it doesn't exist. And if it's that big of a deal for the airport, then you would think that there would be some data to support it.
the empirical that I don't have is gonna change now because word is getting out of the airport. It doesn't have a courtesy car. Back when we first took it away, more people would come in and expect it. And now the word's getting out, so I'm sorry to have it that.
And we don't even fly if they don't have one. So we call ahead or look, and if they don't have one, we don't go there.
And that's interesting that you guys say that, but it's also funny that fuel sales are going up by 20,000 gallons this year compared to when you had a car. So
Yeah.
that really doesn't support what you're saying. And that's why I think it's necessary for there to be, if nothing else, a survey monkey or something put in place where you can, as pilots come in here, you can ask them what's the importance of it, because without it, you're all just taking a guess.
Well, I don't know that it's a guess, Mr. Mayor, but your point is correct. We can surely do some data collection. But I mean, every pilot, when you fly, you go to where you get what you want when you're going. So if we're going to Athens, Georgia, we go to the little airport outside of Athens because they have a courtesy car. You know,
But you don't have that option in Palatka. So I mean,
no.
the only question I've got with that, Judd, is if I got business in Palatka, I don't see me landing in St. Augustine because they got a courtesy car, or Craig in Jacksonville, or Daytona or DeLand. And if that's the kind of business you're talking about, that's different from the guy who wants to land and get gas and go grab a bite to eat. Just for the board's understanding, the problem with the whole thing has been that as we sit here right now, we have tried very diligently to get a absolute answer from our insurance carrier about whether we would have coverage on that car. As Val's tried, I was on a conference call, and the answer we got was probably. Well, probably in the world of liability is not a really great answer. And when you think about the liability of a car, as the mayor indicated, the start of this discussion was because someone saw our courtesy car at ABC. I think it was even on Sunday, I'm not sure. Saturday morning, our car, our courtesy car at ABC Liquors. The possibilities are endless. You can think of them yourself. So when we were talking about with our carrier about trying to pin them down, the best we ever got was assuming the people were using the car in accord with your rules or our rule, but you won't know whether they're doing that till after the problem occurs. So assuming our rules said you can't take it to a liquor store, but they took it to a liquor store, the answer we got, if you interpret it literally, was that would be we didn't have coverage. So that person T-bones a car coming out of the liquor store, and the city's got what?
Big problems.
Big problem. So then that meant you really need to show us a big problem that we're going to be solving by taking on a big risk. And that's when the whole discussion got to be zip cars and can we get a rental car? But folks, if you don't know it, it's a bad time because the rental car people are buying cars at the auction right now because they can't get their fleet purchases. There's a shortage of cars right now. We all know it. All you have to do is do a little Googling and you can see they can't get the microprocessor or whatever. They got cars that are being manufactured that are sitting. So the rental car hurts enterprise, whereas they normally buy a whole bunch of fleet cars every year new. It's not a problem for them. They got plenty of cars. They can't right now. They're actually buying cars secondhand at the auction. So I don't know if that'll make a difference in the future or not. We're all for zip car, whatever we can do. Or if the insurance carrier would say positively, you've got coverage, I don't care at that point. You know what I mean. The city, the city manager doesn't care. But as long as you're telling me there's an unknown liability out there that could be huge, I think in my opinion, I'd be remiss in saying, sure, let's put it out there and hope nobody gets into a wreck. Folks, you didn't even have rules on that car, apparently. I mean, the best I can tell, we didn't even have rules.
We didn't have a sign-out sheet.
A sign-out sheet.
That listed a number of rules. They're listed.
But I think we settled this last meeting. We are not advocating again that the city has a car. So, I mean, I think we accept that very well.
But it keeps coming back.
The reason it does is because we need a zip car or a rental car or some provision. And I don't know, we talked about zip with Ms. Thomas. We talked about Mr. McLean with a rental car. And that's really the reason for bringing it back up.
But I got to tell you, if we had done the job, and we had kept track of who was using the car and when, if we had done the paperwork right, even asking for a driver's license, if we had done all of those things, we wouldn't be talking. Well, we didn't do it. So we get what we didn't do. Secondly, I think when people call in, they call here and say, hey, do you have are you going, we should have a log up there if we want to look at it. And wait a minute. I mean, I'm not, you can do whatever, but I'm just saying that I agree with the mayor. Look, if people call in, I think you're right. They're not going to drive, but they're going to call ahead. Do you have a rental car? We should have that logged in. Let's see how many people ask for a rental car, either come in on the phone or do. And where they're coming from, just out of curiosity. If they're coming from St. Augustine, I don't feel sorry for them. If they're coming in, you know what I'm saying? And so I think we ought to build a case. And if it is needed, then we maybe could find a way to do it. But really,
And I just thought I did have a log. I can't go back in and research it.
Who's
The
called?
times we loaned it out in the last
not
year.
that, not, you got a log of who bought. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a guy calls on the phone. I'm flying into DeLand. I have Rachel call. Do they have a rental car? Those need to be recorded right here because that'll give us something. I wouldn't have gone because I didn't have a rental car like you're saying. But you're also saying that if they had said yes, they might have come here. So we want to know those couple of
John, since it keep coming up, I want to just mention something to you. You can probably explain it, but I came out here one day and there was a black, I think it was Expedition stretch out there on the ramp, parked. And there's a black Expedition stretch out here in the parking lot. And I asked Robert or whoever it was at the desk, you weren't here, well, whose are those? He said, the rentals. I said, the rental cars, because I've been told that we didn't have any rentals up here. He said, yeah. He said, Enterprise, he said, they'll come and leave a car out here, leave us the keys, and the people come in and get it, or they'll come and they come and collect them once a week, or they'll bring a car, or people leave their car here and Enterprise will come and get it once a week. He said, those are rentals. And I didn't understand how that fit with what we were being told about there not being any rental cars available. There were two sitting here on the one out there, and I think that was Morris, or they had gotten that arranged. And the black one that was sitting out there, I don't know who that was. And maybe Robert was wrong, but he told me that the Enterprise on a regular basis came out and picked up cars or dropped cars off for pilots who made arrangements in advance. Is that true?
If they make arrangements far enough in advance, it's the person that flies in right now is gonna get a rental car. Yeah, they've got cars, if you just coordinate it, far enough out.
How do people know that? Is there anything on our website that tells people how to do that or that they can do that? Or
It's kind of a new problem since COVID, that rental car companies are running out of cars. Because they got rid of them during COVID. And that will eventually correct itself.
So why can't we talk to Enterprise? I mean, I guess they're the only player in town right now. United.
I spoke to United Rental and Wayne spoke to them, so I know them, and they said their biggest issue is they just can't sit a car out here and wait for pilots to come unless there is something that shows that there's a need to have a car here daily.
But why can't we have something on our website or have information with John?
That's what the options are.
Exactly. It says.
They call in.
And they also said that if they are notified in advance, they'll make whatever accommodations necessary for the pilots as they come in. And so that's all you can ask.
That's the reason we brought this back up.
So United's willing to accommodate. I know that Enterprise has done so in the past as well. And so I think there are options, and I think Melissa makes a good point of just making sure we provide the available information, but I also think that it's gonna be necessary for us at the end of the data collection to figure out if we just spent more time talking about something that's not really a problem. And so I think all of it goes together at the end of the day. And so if we can create available options.
We'll figure out the rental car issue by next month. Ms. Val and I won't.
Put a sign up there. Rental cars here.
Yep.
Yep.
We're good.
Well, that will solve the problem that we've been talking about. Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything here, but the flight school spoke up and asked if they could possibly provide one.
Well,
I
no,
opened up we check with the other commercial people out here, if they're interested in doing it, then, take the line.
As long as their liability, I don't care.
I agree too.
I told them to hold off until after the meeting. It's okay with you.
Yeah, well.
I thought the Sarah Associates might provide us one for free.
You know all about liability.
Go ahead, John.
I know I'm only me, but I got a lot of appointments and a lot of things that are important to me. Some of them are pretty important. I don't want to come back here and waste 30 minutes of my time talking about that rental car when we have settled this over and over. I don't think it should come back to this board until something changes. I don't want to talk about it. Look how much time we wasted of everybody's day over, how many times we've done it? Months.
Now, this is the first solution though that I've heard.
Well,
So I really thank you all for your participation, for the research with the new company. And John, if you'll get that on the door and make sure it's easily accessible, then in my opinion, we've taken care of the problem that we've talked about for a year.
Hotline number or something we have out here, just kind of make it so that it's easy. If they really want a car, they can do it. If they just want to be able to pop in and have a car anytime they want to, then that may not fix it, but for the person who's legitimately needs transportation, we are going to accommodate that.
And as more cars become available, then United's gonna be able to have cars and they'll be more flexible, but they don't, they're like everybody else, they don't have cars.
Y'all don't even have cars, do you?
Nope. Not in the rental business.
No, they're saying they can't keep, so they brought
you don't have
in,
any cars to sell.
they brought in, they're saying they literally have to go get like 15 more rentals because they're running out every week.
Well, that's a wonderful answer. Thank you all very much. All right, now if we'll go to number 5, John, that's your report, please, sir.
Yeah, Sonny, if you could go with the slide presentation.
And we're down to 13 minutes.
This is a good time to look at these numbers because these are March numbers, which is perfectly halfway through the fiscal year.
How's she going to put it there?
Oh,
Where'd they go?
I'll be right there. I think on a little iPad.
wow.
I'll share with the mayor.
I got it.
Here.
Okay. I got it on.
Buddy's pretty good, but she's not that good.
Next slide, Sonny.
Sorry, I got another one in the car. I should've brought it in.
Very close to last year. Next slide. 100 low lead. As you can see, 62,000.
What do we charge her for 100 low lead right now?
388.
How often do you,
Ready to go.
how often do you adjust?
Yeah.
How often do you adjust?
And get a tanker.
So do you adjust price based upon what your last load costs, not what market is?
That's 12 to those camps, yes, 12,000 gallons more than last year.
People fly. And I think COVID has really pushed people into airplanes and boating and.
6,000 on Jet A, if you can't read it, 6,000 more gallons than last year.
What's Jet A
Jet
cost?
A? 364.
Jet A's cheaper than 100?
And what are we charging? That's what we charge? That's
Two-
cheap.
264.
What?
Sorry.
264?
No,
Hugh,
no,
what's,
I don't know.
That's cheap.
I don't know.
It's cheaper than that. It's cheaper than diesel outside.
wow.
So it's cheaper and low.
Yeah, no, that's ready to go with $4 a gallon.
So let me ask one real quick question. I know everybody's gonna get out of here, but do other airports base their fuel prices on the cost of their last load? Or do they base their fuel prices on market?
I can answer that. Both. You have to factor in both. When you get a load, you gotta look at what other people are charging in the local area and try to be competitive with them. Yeah, it's kind of two pronged.
But you just told me you didn't change prices until you got a new load.
And that's when you evaluate.
How often do you look at the price?
We get a load of 100 load every month, once a month, about every 3 weeks to a month.
Yes. Well, repeat that question, because I asked that same question a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I've been meaning to stop.
Repeat that question, Mr. Brown.
How often do we look? Since prices are really going, we ought to be looking.
Daily.
Or some, I mean, look, I called St. Augustine and around today, they're cheaper like us, probably a little more sophisticated. And they're rocking, and that price goes up, they're going up. You may, you want to hold it You want to make as much money as you can, so what filling stations do.
Yeah, and I don't, and I'm not trying to be the
I mean, we
expert
wanna
here
be
because I'm
like-
not. I
but
wouldn't mind
every-
us being a little bit under, but I just think it looks to me like you ought to take a temperature more often than just when you get a
And
load.
once a month, I mean, right now with prices falling like they are, you ought to be looking at that thing, maybe not daily, maybe it's not, but at least once a week, we ought to compare and go up where we can, because sometimes we're a lot.
And I do, there have been times in between loads where I've gone up or down. And that's probably more down if we buy a load,
Let's
this
look
week and something, Keystone buys one or Flagler buys one.
No time to do
a
it, David.
quarter
Let's talk
less.
about a policy on that. Jonathan, let's talk about a policy on, you know, not a shot in the dark, you know, not putting us out of step with everybody else in the world, but just a policy on how often we look at surrounding prices and market and stuff like that. When your service station goes up every day or down, whatever. I mean,
Just as important on the falling market as on a rising market
Absolutely.
to stay equivalent. You just can't do it once a month.
Well, my biggest concern is just running basic numbers on gallons sold revenues to date. You're showing an average of about $1.72. And that's half of what you're looking at for a gallon of fuel. Just on the vehicular numbers, I don't know how that compares to airplane fuel, but I think at the end of the day, with the way gas prices have risen over the last year, we have to look at, are we doing ourselves an injustice in the way that we are formulating the prices? Because this thing has completely grown. And when you look at last year's average price versus this year's average price, there's almost no, it's like a penny difference. It's a penny more on the average price based upon fuel sales to date versus what it was last year. And so I find it hard to believe that we're actually adjusting prices based upon those things that are in place, considering what I see at a pump every day. And I'm sure that there has to be some correlation between fuel costs for an airplane versus fuel costs for a vehicle.
We'll try to put something together. And folks, we're not just talking about trying to feed more money to the city, but Wayne, you've been talking about maintenance for a long, long time. Y'all did a $25 a month increase on hangers instead of 50. That's fine, but I mean, is what it is. But we still talk about where we find money to do hanger paint. And hanger,
Absolutely.
huh?
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, if we find some more money in some of these things that aren't going to be a deterrent to your activity, maybe that's where you find your pot to do some of that stuff that we've been talking about for a year.
Good point.
Yes, sir.
Next slide. The rent revenue.
Fuel revenue versus expenditure.
Oh, okay. Natural, more fuel, looking better, 53 compared to 42,000. And next slide, that's rent revenue up, $25 increase help. This building being rented all year long, this office being rented all year long, everything's rented. Let's help that. And here comes, next slide, please. Here's the important one. I'm sure which was up here. Bottom line is, if you look at the bottom, when you subtract the expenses from revenue over the first 6 months of this year, just the airport alone,
No better.
we're 61,000 to the good.
Close on it.
I'm sorry. You want to see it?
Close on it.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
So the next slide carries over. If you take the 61,000 the airport made and you add the CARES Act money, we're looking at 84 to the good.
6 months. That's good.
84 to the good.
With CARES Act.
But don't forget about the elephant in the room. And there's two expenses that I did not factor into it, and that's the administrative fee for the city. And that's the money that, that support the airport. Here right now, finance supports us on a daily basis. We got to pay City Hall to support the airport.
Well, the auditor is required to. It's gotta be an allocation of expense.
And of course, the nasty little thing at the bottom, the loan payment, 153, so.
Question, Mr. Chairman, quick question for
Yes.
you. I know we're short on time, but I'm sorry, it's just in my nature, I gotta ask. So this personnel fee you got there, is that benefit loaded?
That is, that's overtime, that's insurance, that's salary, everything.
Okay, thank you.
All right, John, you got 4 minutes.
The capital improvement, the bottom line is we got about $1 million last year. In grant money, we're looking at 1.3 million this year. Next slide, please. I know we need to talk about the debt service. Everybody knows that that's our burden to bear in 2024. Next slide, please. And these are the airport improvement programs. We don't really have time to go over all of them, but the 4 projects in the hopper are the taxiway alpha projects, hangar design, LED lighting installation, and the hangar appearance project. On the hangar appearance, we've got we went out for 3 bids. We got 2 bids in to paint the first row of key hangars, the white portion. Lowest bid so far, just to paint, take care of the rust and paint the white trim, $77,000.
Just one row of hang,
One row,
which will leave you another row of hang.
2 rows, 2 more rows. And that doesn't, and that's not the 2 big hangers. So rust and rust is getting quite expensive. The $25 that we started taking in January, we'll pay that at the end of May. We'll pay that.
That's good.
Did I say 7? I said 77,000, sorry.
Thank you.
7.
Yeah, oh, thank you. I know, I'm thinking, man, what in the world, Andrew?
7,000. Trying to figure out how to do it.
Thank you, sir.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. 7 is a lot better than 77.
Are you with that, John?
Okay, 2 minutes, sir.
We will have the money to pay for that in this month from that $25. So I think the next row of hangers in another 5 months, next row of hangers in another 5 months, and then come back and start hitting the blue in an incremental way until we get big bucks to do a comprehensive program and start working on the blue. So it's in the works. Next slide, please. Oh, back up, please. And miscellaneous, all hangar buildings are rented. A refuel truck is needing repair. And I told them to go ahead and start and do the repair.
That was already, that's the process.
It's the parts only working at the afternoon part.
Right now, you're unable to refuel from the truck.
No, we can. The problem is one of the fuel injectors or 2 of the fuel injectors are malfunctioning and staying open. And it winds up getting oil into the combustion chamber that burns and it smokes bad.
If you're flooding that chamber, aren't you risking that engine?
No. I talked with, we asked them about, diesel runaway and they said, no, there's no chance of that. It's not unsightly and no.
Okay, so
Chance it'll
So,
blow.
John, we need to draw to a close.
The airport looks clean.
No.
Yeah.
It's nice. And John, I meet up on you a little bit.
Okay,
but-
so Andrew, did you have one more comment before we close?
15 seconds, only because I saw on John's slide. So we got fantastic bids on the taxiway pavement lighting rehab, like $200,000 less than what our estimate is. So that's really
Wow.
good news.
Congrats.
And it's 100% funded by the FAA. So that's a really good project. It's low and it's 100% funded.
You might start talking about the accuracy of your estimate.
I wish. Well, here's the bad news. The bad news is the T hangar project that's going to be bid shortly, the bids are going to be high. Like, there is just
Can't
no,
get materials.
there is just no question. We opened a bid on another hangar project in Northeast Florida a month ago. Before the project was awarded, the contractor requested a steel increase, which I have never heard before of it happening that quickly. Steel is just difficult to get, labor is difficult to
Building
get,
material.
roofers, tradesmen. I just want everybody to understand that is just a part of our industry right now. And we're gonna make it work. We're gonna build a hangar, but we don't know what it's gonna be. We're gonna put the pieces together and make it work.
All right, this is a fabulous group. Thank you. We're dismissed. Everybody pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself for your participation. Thank you. It's good meeting. Thank you, Mr.
Hey,
Holmes.
hey, one other thing, we're looking for a full-time admin person.
Okay?
Go ahead and hire a full-time admin person, please ask for anybody.
What's the skill levels?
Missing. Last meeting, last meeting, Tuesday night. My wife fell. Get surgery.
Yeah. It's good seeing you, and I absolutely adore that little thing right there. Every time I see it.